So had you told me like 5-6 years ago that I'd be doing this video, damn, I mean, even 3-4 years ago that I was doing this video, I wouldn't have believed you. When I was little, I wasn't really into sports. I never really got into it. I was always more just a nerd, and I was into computers and science and history, which I still am. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more into sports. I did things like Taekwondo when I was younger, like a lot of American kids do. Once I got to college, I started kind of gaining more of an interest in sports a little bit. And the first sport that I really got myself into was boxing, and I ended up joining the club for it and everything. I would train boxing. I still sometimes do. And that kind of started me getting more into sports. I'd be watching boxing matches. I'd even get into a little bit of MMA. My brother has always been into soccer, or for my foreign viewers, football. But given that I'm American, hearing me say football, everyone just kind of assumes what I mean. Doesn't help the shirt that I'm wearing. As a side note, no, I didn't go to UNL, but as I guess a bit of a soft launch, given that I haven't announced where I moved to yet, I live in Omaha. I went from Chicago, where I had the Chicago Bears, and I came to Omaha, where they have the Huskers. So I went from one team that disappoints me on a regular yearly basis to another team that will disappoint me on a yearly basis. I really just love myself, don't I? But my brother's always been into soccer, and he's always just kind of tried picking away at me and getting me into it, and it finally worked. You guys have probably seen me wearing a jersey or two. I think I've only worn 1 or 2 of them actually so far. I worn my Girona FC jersey and my FC Barcelona jersey, which you could probably, for those of you who know, kind of give away that I am very much into La Liga. And yes, I am an FC Barcelona fan. My point with all of this saying is that I am still a designer at the end of the day. So how do you mix design and sports? Easiest way is with football kits. See, the problem with me getting into sports is that I still look at everything in a creative sense. So I not only got into looking at stats of players and teams and their histories, I also got into looking at the designs of their stadiums, the neighborhoods around the stadiums, their historic kits, which ones are ugly, which ones are cool looking, and it went from there. Now I have a list of football kits that I want because they just because they look cool sometimes. Although, of course, there are some kits that I refuse to get from teams that piss me off, Real Madrid being one of them. So I say all of this to say, today we're going to be looking at the brand new MLS kits for the 2026 season. And we're going to be putting them on this tier list and seeing, did they cook? For those of you who don't know, most teams in at least the big European leagues, you know, La Liga, the Bundesliga, the Premier League, Serie A, and Ligue 1, they will change their home, away, and third kits every year. The MLS, however, will cycle them. So the first year, they will have 1 home kit and 1 away kit. The second year, they will change either the home kit or the away kit, meaning that one or the other will stay the same. So they may have the same home kit as last season, but a different away kit. And then it cycles again. So the third year, they'll keep the away kit from year 2, and then they'll switch the home kit. And they just kind of bunny hop like that. So every team only gets 1 new kit every year, unless of course a team releases like a special edition kit. We have 6 different categories going on here. We have absolute must cop at top, which means just this kit is so beautiful, you just gotta get your hands on it. Under that we have they cooked. It's a beautiful kit, it's a good kit. If you want that kit, you go for that kit. Pretty good, meaning, you know what, they did their thing. It's not bad, I'll give it to them. It's all right, yeah, you know, it's a shirt, it works, it gets the point across. Yikes, meaning you're starting to get on the teetering edge of, all right, let's probably take this back to the drawing board. And the designer was blind. It is ugly. It is very ugly. Just with an overall glance through the whole thing, I don't think that anybody is going to actually get that last category. So by default, what we'll do is we'll put the Manchester City third kit in here. Because what the hell was Puma thinking? We're gonna start off with Sporting Kansas City. This is the closest MLS team to me now that I don't live in Chicago, only about 3 hours away. This is their 2026 away kit. The pattern is really nice. I really like the subtle change in the colors. The magenta and the purple don't actually get too aggressively different. They still fit in very well with the navy blue and with the lighter blue that they have. The pattern is fantastic. Personally, I think that this kit is actually very nice. This is crazy. I might already put it in an absolute must cop just because it is very pretty. You know what? I'll put it at they cooked. Sponsorships do have weight on the look of the jersey in general, so I'm gonna put it at they cooked just because I think that the shape is just a little bit weird for the flow of the kit in its entirety. We're following this up with Toronto FC. The kit is not bad. In terms of like heavy detail, it doesn't have a bunch. It really just has the 6 stripes going down the middle with the cutoff at the BMO logo. It also uses a simplified version of the Toronto FC logo compared to their normal one. In general, you take the stripes out and it's a very basic kit. It looks like most other Adidas templates if you take that off, so I'll just put it, it's all right. It's aesthetically pleasing, but it's not crazy. Next up, we have FC Dallas and their 2026 home kit, which, if actually I forgot to mention, the last kit was Toronto's 2026 away kit. Now for Dallas's home kit, it's not bad. You have the different stripes, and within the stripes, each one has a different pattern. So the red stripes have a horizontal pattern, and the blue stripes have these diagonal and chevron pattern on the inside. Gives it just an extra layer of depth. Along with that, outside the border of the navy stripes, you have thinner white stripes. The collar up top has the navy and the white stripes, and although you can really barely see it, it has a red stripe too on the edge. Same thing goes with the sleeves. Small details like that really make or break a kit. I honestly don't think it's terrible. I actually kind of think it's pretty good in my humble opinion. Next, we have the Houston Dynamo. The pattern is interesting. The gradient color choice isn't terrible. Pattern on it is supposed to be a satellite view of Houston. It's supposed to connect to Houston's contribution to space travel, space flight. So I think the idea is good, but I think the execution is a little awkward and makes it look kind of funky almost. It's creative, but like funky. I'm gonna put it at it's all right. I don't think it's a yikes. I think the colors and the way that they pop really help it. I just think that the pattern's a little weird. Next, we have the 2026 St. Louis City away kit. Now, this kit is supposed to be inspired by Tina Turner and her famous gold dress. You can see the flows and like the folds that they put into the pattern to make it look like it's this skin tight dress almost. It's shiny, it's kind of cool, it's different. I don't think it's terrible. If anything, it's decently clean. I'd put it, it's all right personally. I don't think it's the most inspired kit in the world, but you know, it's there. Next, we have DC United with their 2026 home kit. Now, here's the thing about soccer kits. Any team, and this is across any sport, you can't necessarily always get like super creative with home kits just because the teams have an identity. The Chicago Cubs, you expect it to be blue and red. The Boston Bruins, black and yellow. The LA Chargers, a sky blue and a yellow. My point being is that usually the home kits have to still kind of keep the essence of what that club is. In this case, the same thing applies with DC United. They're known for having red and black. Now, for example, take a team like FC Barcelona. They're known for having not only the navy blue and the red, they're also known for having striped kits in some form or fashion. DC United, not as much. So while with Barcelona, you would expect the home kit to have some variation of the blue and red stripes, DC United, for the most part, they've just kept their kits very simple. But when you're so used to just keeping your kits simple, where it's just mainly plain black with a couple extra red details, you can't get very creative with it. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put it in yikes because it's just very plain. There's nothing overly special about it. Next on the list, we have the 2026 home kit for Real Salt Lake, which, as a note, I really like their away kit. It's really pretty. Now, if you look at the home kit, it actually kind of looks like it's an inverted version of FC Dallas's kit, which I think is kind of funny. And if you look at it from far away, it could almost fool you that it's a 2014, 2015 FC Barcelona kit. But the gold accents on it really help it stand out, and that's honestly what gives it a little bit of a extra little flavor to it. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's all right. I think it's an all right kit. It's not a terrible looking kit. Next up, we have the 2026 Seattle Sounders home kit. Personally, I don't see that there's much going on. I've always really liked the fact that the Sounders have chosen to go for a very different color when it comes to kits. This is a very rare color, the seafoam green. You don't see it much in sports memorabilia whatsoever. So I think the fact that they chose this is very distinct. I don't think it's a bad kit. I just don't think there's much happening. The collar and the sleeves have a little bit of pattern work going on that make it look very ocean-like. But outside of that, I wouldn't say that there's much to, you know, call home about. I would say it's all right, but I want to hold it to the same standard as DC United, so I'm going to put it in yikes. Yikes in the case of this tier list right now, it's not really that they're bad kits. It's just there isn't much that you should really feel hype about. Next, we have the 2026 Colorado Rapids home kit, which kind of falls into the same category as the other two that we just discussed. I'll give them some credit, and I think it's really cool that they have a little bit more color action going on. For the most part, obviously, you still have the black field, which is the majority of the kit. You have the stripes being the burgundy, and then you have that very pale blue, almost pastel blue in the Adidas logo and the sponsor. If you look closely at the collar and the sleeves, it actually has 5 different colors along the stripes. A very dark burgundy, a pastel blue, a deeper marine blue, a forest green, and then this palish yellow. All this is actually supposed to pay homage to the 30th MLS anniversary, which I think these subtle details are cool and they help it a bit, but they are details that you really need to pay attention to notice. From far away, they're not going to be overly expressive details. I would almost put it in between it's all right and yikes. I'm gonna put it ahead of DC and of Seattle Sounders just because there's just a couple extra little things in there, but they don't overly stand out for the most part. The majority of the kit, it's really just a basic Adidas template kit. Next, we have the 2026 Atlanta United away kit. I have to say, this one's really nice. This kit's inspired by the 1996 Olympics. I mean, it's a solid kit. The very light beige tone with the gold accents. You have the asymmetric, almost tealish stripe that is flanked by 2 gold stripes. You have the entire Atlanta United FC crest being gold, and then the gold and teal accents along the sleeves. It's just, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's a very clean kit. It's not super detailed to the point where, you know, there's too much going on, but there's just enough detail to make it really look just chef's kiss. And I would say in comparison to something like the Toronto FC kit, there's a little bit more detail that I put it in pretty good, almost to they cooked, honestly. Now, there's probably some of you looking at the list right now and being like, well, if Atlanta United's in they cooked, why is FC Dallas not in they cooked? You have to remember that a lot of these rankings are subjective. While I can agree that FC Dallas and Atlanta United both use quite a bit of detail, personally, I just think that the execution of some of these kits is just a little funky. Or maybe it's just not up to my taste, and you know, that's going to be different for all of us, and that's why this is open to discussion. Next up, the 2026 Vancouver Whitecaps away kit. Not a bad kit. Overall, pretty simple. The mountain peaks / chevron-ish design that they have going on along the sleeve cuffs and the collar, it's a nice addition. There's a little texture going on the shirt, but not too much. In general, pretty simple kit. Not like a whole lot happening. I'm gonna throw it in yikes just because it's not the most inspired thing in the world. And of course, as another note, not every kit needs to be. Sometimes some simple kits are fine. Next up, we have the 2026 FC Cincinnati away kit. I personally am a pretty big fan of this. The use of the orange and the blue, there's a good balance of it. I like the way it looks on the sleeve cuffs and on the collar. The fact that they went with a bit more of a faded orange compared to the strength of the orange on the Adidas stripes and the collar and cuffs. I like the pattern where it looks like one of the zigzags is ahead of the other one. This one is definitely a they cooked. The only thing I feel is a little odd is just the Mercy Health sponsor. I almost think it would have been cooler had they just gone with the symbol for Mercy Health and just put that in the middle. Almost kind of like how Inter Miami does with the Carnival logo. I just think maybe that would probably stand out even more. Speaking of which, we have the Inter Miami 2026 away kit. It's black and pink. There's really nothing happening, actually. It's just black and pink. The stripes are lighter black. It's a yikes kit. I mean, there's nothing happening. People are still gonna buy it because it's a Messi kit. I like Lionel Messi. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm a Barca fan. But you're never going to catch me wearing a Messi Inter Miami jersey because I'm a Chicago Fire fan. And especially not this Inter Miami kit, because why the hell am I going to spend $200 on this one? It's just so plain. Next up, we have the 2026 Orlando City away kit. Not a bad look. The purple and the yellow is just kind of the staple Orlando City thing. The extra white stripe on the collar and then the sleeve cuffs is pretty cool. They actually have this pattern on the yellow, which is a lion's face, and all the flowiness is the hair. I think it's kind of cool. It's very subtle. It looks nice. Has a bit more detail than all the ones in the yikes category, so I'm gonna throw it into it's all right. It's not a bad kit. I think it's pretty clean. Now we have the 2026 New York City FC away kit. Overall, not a bad kit. In general, not a lot going on besides the pattern work. The pattern is supposed to be inspired by the Big Apple and this idea of the city where you can pretty much find anyone of any nation there. Not a bad kit. I'd almost kind of put it in the same category as the Orlando City kit, where the majority of the kit doesn't have much going on. It's really carried by the pattern work in the main body. So I'm gonna throw it in it's all right. Next up, we have the CF Montreal 2026 away kit. I really like this kit. It is very clean. In general, not too much going on, but the staticky, glitchy pattern that they have in the background and in the main body, I think is very nice. It has just general blue accents around the rest of the kit. It's a very nice looking kit. I personally put it in pretty good just because I like the glitchy pattern, but it really rides the line between it's all right and pretty good just because of the detail. Again, not every kit needs a whole lot of detail. For some people, this is an absolute must cop just because it's very clean kit, which I could almost agree, but I'm trying to judge this purely from a how well is it designed execution. In reality, you know, part of me wants to reorder this and put, you know, absolute must cop for this and whatnot, but I'm trying to keep this as fair as possible because some of these, like the Atlanta United one, you could say is just like upper echelon, and then some people wouldn't see the Montreal kit as having done enough to be on that same level. So I'm trying to kind of balance this out as well as I can. I'll probably cover the absolute must cop towards the end, unless I find one earlier on that I think deserves it. Next up, we have the 2026 New England Revolution home kit. I think this is a really cool kit. It looks like an explosion. It's freaking sick. How everything gravitates towards and away from the crest, I think is really cool actually, and it's inspired by their 1996 Reebok kit. It's a very modern take on it, which I actually think they executed pretty well. I like the detail. I'm going to say that they cooked. Next up is the 2026 Minnesota United home kit. Minnesota United always seems to have some pretty solid kits, and now they're going to have James Rodriguez wearing it. But, I mean, depending on how it goes at FC Barcelona, given the rest of this season, Chicago Fire may or may not have Robert Lewandowski wearing a Fire kit. If that comes to fruition, the rest of y'all can just, I don't care about the rest of your players. We got it in the bag. The pattern work on the Minnesota kit is actually not too bad. I think it's pretty cool. It's very clean. It's supposed to represent water, the Mississippi River specifically. Do I think it's the most inspired kit in the world? No, not really. But I don't think it's a bad kit whatsoever. I think it's all right. Next up, we have the 2026 Portland Timbers away kit. Now, personally, I think this one, despite all the pattern work, is just a little dull. The colors, for one, even though you can make out everything just fine, the darker sagey tones compared to the lighter tones in the back, they are pretty easy to make out. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it. I think if, one, they got rid of the Bank of America text, that would have helped a lot, actually. And I don't think it's the worst kit in the world. I just almost feel like I would have rather seen that they either went with like a more vibrant sage for all of the accents, or if they went with a different color entirely. It just feels a little too monochromatic for my personal taste. I don't think it's horrendous. I just don't think it's all that wow. I'm not going to put it in yikes. I am going to put it in it's all right because I think it still does more than the yikes kits. It's just not up to my personal preference. Next up, the 2026 Chicago Fire home kit. Now, I'm a Chicago man. Let's hear an honest, unbiased opinion from the Chicago man. Now, the Chicago Fire, when it comes to home kits, pretty much have this look kind of solidified as quintessentially Chicago Fire. A lot of their past kits look exactly the same when it comes to their home kits. They went with a bow shape for the white, which kind of just pans out to the edges. On the sleeve cuffs and on the collar, they have actually the Chicago sky blue stripes with the red stripes. And on the sleeve cuffs, they actually only made it go about halfway just for the inner sleeve and not the outer, which I think is a cool little touch. Now, in general, is it the most different inspired kit out of all of them? No, but there are subtle details that give it a little bit of life. But the kit is quintessentially Chicago Fire, and it's kind of like what I mentioned with DC United. There's a point where you build a brand for yourself, and then kind of stepping out of that zone is a little tough, and you have to try to work within the constraints you've branded yourself with. I personally feel the Chicago Fire is pretty good, but I know that there's definitely people that are going to be like, it meets all the same criteria as the It's Alright kits. So I'll put it on the teetering edge of both. And you could almost argue that the teams that have essentially created a brand for themselves and trying to at least experiment within the constraints they made for themselves, like DC United, like Chicago Fire, like Real Salt Lake, you can almost make an entirely different tier list or judge them differently based on how well did they differentiate themselves from last year. Now, of course, some of these comparisons might also be a little unfair given that some of these are away kits and some of these are home kits. And like I mentioned before, the home kits usually have to abide by whatever your identity is, your brand identity is. The away kits and third kits can get much more experimental, and you can step way outside of your usual boundaries. Next up, we have the 2026 San Diego FC kit. I think it's not bad. I like the pattern work. I like how the cracks blend between the blue and the orange. I think the accent work is decent. It's not too bad. I think that this is also an all right kit. I don't think it does enough to be in the pretty good category, but I think it's all right. Next up, we have the 2026 Philadelphia Union home kit. Now, the pattern work that it has on the main body is pretty much the biggest detail that it actually has, which it's all imagery that's inspired by the Declaration of Independence. Honestly, it's not bad. It has a similar half cuff border as the Chicago Fire jersey going on the sleeves. In general though, I don't think it's the most creative way to provide detail or inspiration from the Declaration of Independence on a kit. I think it's a little lazy. I wouldn't call it yikes, but I also wouldn't put it way past it's all right personally. I think that Philadelphia Union have had way better kits. Last season's home kit, for example, was phenomenal. So I just think this one kind of drops the ball a little bit in my personal opinion. Next up, we have the 2026 Columbus Crew home kit. I mean, it's, you know, it's a yellow shirt. It is a yellow shirt. There is really not much to write home about. It's not the most inspired kit in the world. It's okay. Given that they do the black and the yellow, I honestly think maybe take more inspiration from Borussia Dortmund when it comes to your home kits. You know, there ain't much happening here. It's going into yikes. Next up, we have the 2026 LA Galaxy home kit. Okay, I'm going to have a bit of a controversial opinion here. Now, I think the idea with what they wanted to go with was pretty good. I also like the way that they updated the way that the stars are displayed. I think that was a good touch. Now, I think that the cutoff for the diagonal stripe, where it cuts off with the sponsor, is very, very awkward. I understand why it cuts off higher on the top part of the stripe compared to the bottom, but I feel the difference in gap make it look extremely awkward. It feels like there was a less lazy way for them to approach this. I feel like they also could have just let the stripe go all the way through and applied a border to the sponsor logo, and it would have looked better. I think that this was not a bad attempt, but it kind of falls flat on its face just because of that glaring detail. Now, literally just for that, I'm throwing it in the designer was blind. Not because the overall execution of the kit's terrible, not because I think that in general it looks like a horrible kit, just because I cannot get my eyes away from that giant white space above the Herbalife logo. It just keeps throwing me off. It feels like that space just killed the momentum for this kit for me personally. Next on the list, we have the 2026 RB New York home kit. Now, it has a roots design going on. I don't think it's awful, but this kind of falls into my, not disdain, but confusion with a lot of Red Bull team kits. Now, the two most recognizable Red Bull teams would be RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga and RB Salzburg in the Austrian Bundesliga. There's also RB Bragantino, which is in the Brazilian Serie A. And what I notice with a lot of RB kits whenever I do see them is that they usually have a lot of pattern work, but for some reason whenever I see half of them, they feel like patterns where it feels like if you go into ChatGPT and you put make me cool graffiti pattern or something along the lines, kind of like just modern art pattern, like that's what you would get. And that's almost like what I feel like the RB New York kit looks like. It just kind of feels like they took a pattern, modified it a bit, you know, made a bunch of weird shapes in Adobe Illustrator and slapped it onto the kit and called it design. It's not a terrible looking kit. I think it's a all right looking kit. I just wouldn't say that it's like the craziest, you know, idea in the world or anything. It's all right. It's an all right kit. There's a lot of it's all right kits, as you can see. I'm going to do some reordering at the end. Next up, we have the 2026 San Jose Earthquakes away kit. They went with the tie-dye look. I don't hate it. I think it's kind of cool. I think the sponsor makes the kit look a little weird, but I mean, you can't really change that. It's the sponsor. I don't think it's a terrible kit. I think that it's creative. I think they also could have done more. That's my personal opinion. I think it's all right. Next up, we have the 2026 Austin FC away kit. I like how they kind of pulled the tree out of their usual crest and they just kind of made that the crest. They also went just with a far more minty, muted green. It pretty much just looks like a more muted version of their home kit. I don't think it's bad. I think it's clean. I think it's all right. Next up, the 2026 Nashville SC home kit. Kind of falls into the same trap as the Columbus Crew kit. There's a little extra stuff going on the cuffs with like a minty green color. But outside of that, not much happening. I like that they went with a center alignment for the Nashville SC crest, which I think is nice, but in general, kind of falls on the yikes. Next up, we have the 2026 Charlotte FC home kit. Not a bad look. The pattern that they have along the neckline and the cuffs along the sleeves, it looks like a crown, just as it has on the Charlotte FC crest. I think that's a nice detail. In general though, it's just a white and blue kit. Not much happening that really, you know, makes the kit super interesting. Compared to something like their last home kit, it's kind of falls short, and I would almost have to throw it in yikes. Kind of in between yikes and it's all right, just not much happening. And then finally, the last kit, the 2026 LAFC home kit. The pattern is nice. It's a black and gold, as LAFC is known for. The pattern is pretty sick. It reminds me a lot of the 1920s and the Art Deco look. I don't think it's a bad look. I actually think this kit is quite all right. Now that we have all the kits, let's reorder this a little bit. Looking at the top ones, we'll start with the Sporting Kansas City, the FC Cincinnati, Atlanta United, and New England Revolution kits. Would I put any of these in absolute must cop? Yes. The Atlanta United kit, I think, is fantastic. It's a wonderful, wonderful execution. It does fairly minimal, but it has a lot of small details to look into, and I think overall the kit's just extremely clean and well executed. The FC Cincinnati kit, I really like the approach that they did with the pattern work, and the colors, they stand out very well. I think that's definitely also an absolute must cop. Lastly, I would say that the Sporting Kansas City kit is definitely a must cop. Just the pattern work, again, the usage of color, it's very well executed. Now, the New England Revolution kit I think is very nice, and I really love the approach that they went with it, especially just the overall asymmetric design. I'm almost tempted to put in absolute must cop. I just feel like I want to hold it back. I can't exactly pinpoint why. Now, any of these pretty good kits, do I want to move them up to they cooked? Even though it's simple, and maybe some of you feel like it belongs more so in the it's all right, I'm going to throw the CF Montreal kit up in they cooked. I like the glitch effect. I think it's well executed. That's my personal opinion. The FC Dallas kit, I'm going to keep in pretty good. Now, the It's Alright kits, do I want to move any of them up to pretty good? I'm tempted to move the Chicago Fire kit up, and I'm going to say I'm going to do it just purely out of bias. I'm sorry, look, I'm caught, I understand. I'm going to move the Houston Dynamo kit up, even though I feel that the satellite view of Houston's kind of weird. I do like the pulsating gradient color change that they have happening. So I honestly will probably just put it in pretty good just because of that alone. Now, given that I moved the fire kit up, I'm not going to be overly judgmental here. I'm going to also say that the NYCFC kit is going to go up. The LAFC kit is going to go up as well. Just because I do really like the pattern work on both of them. I think it's some of the cleaner pattern work out of most of the other ones. And I think it does a better job of its execution. I'm almost tempted to do the same thing with the San Diego FC kit, but I will say that I feel like it would have been better executed if there was a bit more of the crack design going around and if it was not as much white space. In a similar manner to the Chicago Fire kit, I almost want to throw the Toronto FC kit up there, but what I will say without bias is the Chicago Fire kit does have a little extra detail going on around the collar and the cuffs compared to the Toronto kit, so that's the only reason that I'm letting my bias push me that way. Now, as for the Yikes kits, they're all still very simple. If there's only one kit that I would take out of the Yikes and put it in the It's Alright, like I feel like it's on the teetering edge, it's the Colorado Rapids kit, just because of the extra colorways that they have happening and the small details that you can see along the rest of the kit, but they are very minimal, harder to see. Now, if the LA Galaxy kit didn't have the glaring problem that pisses me off there at the bottom, where would I put this kit? I would put it in the pretty good category, just because I think overall it's a very clean kit, well executed. But that one little detail's got me and my eyes can't avert themselves. So that was the entirety of the 2026 MLS kits. This is a doozy and it's going to take forever to edit. Let me know if you guys want to see me go over other sports related stuff. Like I said, there are a lot of videos I could make, and there's even some that I've thought of making when it comes to design in sports in general. And so if you guys want to see more of that, please let me know. I'm very happy to do that. There's some topics I already have in the chamber that I could start recording now if I wanted to. Let me know your guys' opinions down in the comments. Let me know if you think that I'm dumb. It's okay, don't worry, it won't hurt my feelings. And if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, follow me on all my socials. All those links are down in the description. Today's verse of the day is from John chapter 13, verses 34 through 35, and it reads, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." God bless everybody, and I hope that wherever you guys are, whenever you guys are watching today's video, you have a great and wonderful day. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.